Hey, my name is Al Graham, and you're with People Advocating Cannabis Education. P.A.C.E is about promoting the benefits of cannabis, which we do through educational documentaries or through public events. Today we're at the Carpe Diem Cafe in Peterborough, and I'd like to introduce to you Russell Barth and Christine Lowe, the cannabis advocates from Canada, Ottawa, and they'll talk to us about what they're doing to help legalize cannabis around the world. Hello, Russell and Christine. How are you?
We're doing good.
Well, thanks.
Hi, everybody.
What I usually like to do when I get started on these interviews is ask you a question as far as, what do you do as far as hobbies or any education that you may have, just to give a bit of an idea so people know a little bit about you.
Well, I didn't quite finish high school. And then at the age of 25, I guess it was, 24, I started attending fine arts college in St. Lawrence College in Kingston. And didn't quite get to finish that because I ended up in the hospital in my third semester. And then I moved to Ottawa on Halloween of 1994. So it wasn't until 2002 that I started getting into any kind of activism when I was mostly at Christine's urging. So.
Right.
And,
so, Christine, you got any education or anything and hobbies you can tell us about?
let's see, I've got a little bit. I went to Algonquin College and I graduated with a diploma in graphic arts. Let's see, I also, as far as employment has gone, besides working the typical retail, I worked a little while as a darkroom technician. I've also worked at a newspaper. Let's see, what else have I done? My gosh.
Barista.
Yeah, a barista. My last job was working at Second Cup.
Your last job was working at a store.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot about that. Yeah. And, but...
Yeah. Hang on for a second.
Yeah. Now, the two of you are both medical users of cannabis. A little bit that you like to tell us a bit about why you use cannabis and how you consume it?
Well, and PTSD, and how we consume mostly is about 9 grams a day each. We eat melted into olive oil. Like we just simmer it for a long time in the olive oil, strain it through cheesecloth, and then that's how we take in most of it. And then throughout the day we have various, sort of every 3 hours we have sessions with the volcano where we inhale it, and we also use the bong, dry bong, to smoke it too.
At the beginning there, when you first started talking, Russell, I missed basically why you both use cannabis.
Oh, fibromyalgia and PTSD,
Yep.
Epilepsy and PTSD.
Okay, great. We caught that one. Was it hard for the two of you to become licensed under the MMPR program?
Well, it was hard at first for me because I needed a chronic pain specialist to sign specifically. This is back in 2003, back in the days when a specialist had to be the one to sign, not just the GP.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in Christine's case, it took from right into early 2003, but she was doing so well on cannabis that her doctor finally relented, and her neurologist relented and signed. So she got it before I did, shortly before I did, and then I had a chronic pain specialist who signed for me. Right. Then he lost his license. Then I had to go a year with no license, and then I had another person sign, and then my GP's been signing ever since. We've been really lucky overall.
Yeah.
Compared to other people, we've been super lucky. Yeah.
And Christine, with your epilepsy, some of the benefits that you have found.
Well, as far as that goes, I'm able to stay conscious through the day. I'm not high and loaded on anticonvulsants, and not being able to be psychologically, emotionally available because of those pharmaceuticals. So cannabis allows me to take care of the majority of my symptoms that I have with epilepsy. I still don't exactly have quite the amount of seizure control as I would like, but it's certainly much better than what it would be on pharmaceuticals. As well as that, it tends to take care of a lot of other symptoms that I have and other disorders that I'm also managing as well. So I'm able to do this with just simply one medication, one substance, rather than being on a whole myriad of drugs and pills and stuff like this. So
she's in quite a bit of pain too because of a lifetime of these convulsive seizures.
Correct.
Still having, one or two a month.
Yeah.
So,
and what was she? How many convulsions or seizures were you going through before cannabis, Christine?
well, it's I can answer that better. I remember the numbers really well.
You do the numbers.
Okay.
For the first half of 2002, she had about 60 seizures of different shapes and kinds. And in May of 2002, she decided to quit all of her pharmaceuticals and use cannabis. And then she only had 13 more that year.
Wow.
So in 2003, I think she had 13. In 2004, she had 9. In 2005, I think she had 5. She got down to 3 seizures a year. And then in March of 2008, she had a triple seizure. I called the ambulance. They shot her full of Ativan, took her to ER. They gave her a low dose of Dilantin, and she's been having 2 ever since. So we don't know what happened or what caused that sudden gigantic episode.
Right.
And it was horrendous. It was terribly traumatic for both of us. I thought she was going to die. Like, it was a full-on hospital drama with people shouting stuff at each other, tearing things open, and tubes and wires and all this crap, and it was really scary. And she hasn't been the same since. So I've been taking care of her.
But I've been plagued with seizures ever since I've been a child. As far as I can remember, I've always been having them. Yeah. When I was younger and I was having the seizures, a lot of people told me, well, you're just having fainting spells. We don't know exactly what's going on, this type of thing. So eventually, finally, when I was about 21 years old, I was able to see a neurologist in Kingston, and I was actually diagnosed at that point with epilepsy, and it's just been managing it since with.
And it's a rare form too.
So. Yeah.
The thing they don't talk about in the brochures of epilepsy is that about 1/3 of people with epilepsy don't respond to the medications that.
No.
So their life becomes a drugged out mess of just living in homes or staying in one room with a helmet on, kind of stuff.
Correct.
So, this is the thing is, even though she's still having 2-3 seizures a month, she's having better overall quality of life with this than she would be with anything else.
Exactly, and that's a big point. Improve quality of life. No.
Hey,
yes,
if she was one of these people who could just take 2 tablets a day, have some side effects that weren't that great, and no seizures, like some epileptics, well, that would be the wisest thing to do. And if cannabis works better than that, well, then use cannabis. But if it doesn't work better than that, then use that. But in her case, she's tried all the medications. All they do is bring a lot of side effects. I mean, the whole list practically. Yeah. And they bring more seizures, not fewer. And the quality of life falls apart. There's no sex drive. She puts on a bunch of weight. Her gums recede because they puff up and then they pull back, and then the teeth are more exposed. And it's very bad. And there's all kinds of other side effects. So overall, this is just healthier way to go.
Healthier way to do it. I've been commented to me, about if you start to cough, people say, "Oh, how's that medicine if you start to cough?" Well, if coughing is a small side effect of cannabis, I'd much rather have that than the ones that you just described and what Christine goes through with her medications. So,
if anybody ever wags their finger at me about having a cough, I'll get up in their face about it, because I've had a sinus problem since I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
I was in a wheelchair for 5.5 years, got out. My neck is killing me today, all kinds of stuff. If a genie came out of a bottle or whatever and said, I can do one thing for you, what do you want me to do? I'll say, fix this goddamn nose. the sinus problems I've had since I was 16 are the number one biggest cause of grief in my life.
Wow, eh?
So that's where my coughing comes
Yeah,
from.
it's a
I'm
cough.
constantly just trickling snot, and it drives me
Right.
insane. So that's why I'm always coughing and clearing my throat and working up phlegm. Is not from, and if anything, cannabis has helped a lot of this. My sinuses are actually much better with all my cannabis use than they were. I
Yes,
live in the
exactly.
Ottawa Valley too. I
Because
mean,
the
you're in Peterborough,
decongestion.
man. You're up there in Peterborough. We're down here in a valley. It's like just
We're-
living in a bowl of potpourri.
We're in a dust bowl.
It's like
with
somebody just
dust.
walk up and blow a handful of dust in your face.
Right.
You know, it's
right.
just,
Everything
it's really
collects in
bad
there.
for, if you're a sinus sufferer, you do not want to move to Ottawa.
No, it's not a good place.
Every season is bad. It's for different reasons.
Winter is bad.
You know, every season's got its own different kind of bad. So that's the thing. My cough is all coming from my phlegm
exactly.
and from my my snot problem. So pot actually helps it.
Helps it. Yeah, I find it works as a decongestion, especially through the winter time.
Expectorant
Yes,
too.
yes.
Yep.
Very much.
Okay. We got to hear how the cannabis helps Christine with her epilepsy. You yourself, Russell, you got a bit of a story about you were spent some time in a wheelchair.
Yeah. In 2001, I had a back spasm, not unusual back spasm, but another one of my big thoracic back spasms. And it was sending just terrible pain down my legs and everything. And finally, I twisted so bad I couldn't walk properly. And then I got home, was in bed for several days, and, just getting back and forth to the bathroom was just an excruciating nightmare. So, stupidly, I didn't go to a chiropractor and stuff, but because I didn't know one at the time. And I atrophied very quickly, and this was in November, so by February, I was just shriveled right up. I couldn't barely walk 150 feet. So
From 165
that was later.
to 120.
Yeah, so then, we got a push wheelchair, for me.
Right.
Christine's parents got us that. She pushed me around in a wheelchair. It was like one of these hospital chairs. And we were going through the snow and on sidewalks and all kinds of stuff. It was really, really hard on her, man. Because she's tall, right? She's 5'10". So she had to lean down to push the chair around. It wasn't like she could just walk all nice and just push it.
Right.
So that was a drag. Then a mechanical wheelchair, and I was in with that until March of 2007. And the thing that got me out was mostly my diet. But back in, I guess, 2005 or so, I was at this special clinic place getting the full assessment. It was like a 6-week in program. They were going to sort of rehab me and all this kind of stuff. After the assessment, they went, well, there's nothing we can teach you. You're already doing better. You're eating better and doing better than the people in our program. You're sort of the result of our program rather than what is normally the intake. So we can't really help you. But in the process, I had told them that it was my speculation that if I had a big pile of weed, that I could, do as much as I could to get past the pain, and then I could exercise a little, strengthen me up, and then I could have some more weed and just gradually, sort of snowball the thing positively and gradually get my strength back.
Yeah.
And they gave me one of these sort of polite, well, yeah, that's an interesting idea, kind of looks. And then they pulled Christine aside and they said, no, he's being unrealistic. This is his life now in the chair.
Get him used to
Get him
the
used
chair.
to that because psychologically he needs to get used to that.
So they get to tell you
Because
you're
to
in the
struggle-
chair for good.
Pretty much, yeah. No, I mean, I wasn't bum stuck to the chair. I could get up and walk around. I could get from the car to the
Short
house
distance.
and back and forth. If I was going to go to somebody's place for dinner, I wouldn't bring the chair, right? I'd walk out to the car, then walk from the car into their place and sit and have dinner, but it was always a cane and a hassle, and I moved slow. It's kind of like having, granddad around, right? And if I had to walk like a block, forget it. I'm not even going. Don't even ask. So that was my life then. But in 2007, we lived in a place that was right across the street from a mall. And I got a Category 2 walker, and I just started to struggle. I'd hit the bowl a bunch of times, go, okay, that's my ration for now, so suit up and to the mall, And I knew that it hurt. It was hurting like hell. I mean, it still hurts to walk now. Everything hurts all the time. But I knew that if I pushed through, the muscles might recover.
Right.
If they didn't, they didn't. But if they did, cool, I could start walking properly again. So by May, I was walking by June, I was walking without a cane.
Good.
Just walking normal. I mean, the first while I was wobbly as hell, too. I mean, it was like watching
And then
But
then you made your way out of the wheelchair eventually, to the surprise of the
Mhm.
doctors.
Well, yeah, they were really all thrilled, you know. It helped having a chiropractor right next door, too. My doctor's office was right on the same parking lot as my building,
Yeah.
and then the mall was just across the road. So, you know, I was seeing a chiropractor, and then I could just go home and relax. I didn't have to take a long bus home.
Yeah.
When the doctor also saw you,
Yep.
and she ended up crying.
And this was during a period of time, too, that Christine wasn't having very many seizures. So I could leave her alone at home to work on paintings or whatever. She could go to the mall by herself, get groceries and
Right.
stuff by herself. It was a big period where she was doing stuff by herself. And before we got together, she was just living on her own and trying to keep a job and trying to keep an apartment. But she was having 2-3 seizures a month anyway.
Right.
Falling down and hurting herself, wrecking stuff in her apartment, getting robbed, all kinds of stuff.
In my nose.
Breaking her nose, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
That's
that's a good story to hear. You're able to get out of that wheelchair and be able to use your legs and move around. So it's
And I walk fast,
that's
too.
good.
It's not like I walk briskly.
Right.
Faster than me.
I walk briskly and I can go like 4 clicks in one.
Nice. Okay, now you're also involved in activism, trying to get the word out there to people about cannabis. One of the ways that I understand that the two of you have done a video of Christine and her epileptic seizure. Uh, why did you guys do that, and what's been the reaction to it?
Wow.
This is an interesting story. In January of 2003, we had a video camera, an old 8mm video camera, sitting on a tripod. So all I had to do, I had a battery, and all I had to do was flip up the standby, and it would turn on, push the button, and record it, right? So my friend was over, and she had a seizure, so I said, here, hold this, don't zoom in, just bring the camera in close, because the autofocus is screwed. It's a really old camera. He goes, okay, well, what do I do? I said, just point it at me, and then let me talk. Now, she'd been bugging me for, a long time, but she hadn't had a seizure in a while.
Right.
She says, or actually, yeah, you hadn't had one in a while, but she's like, I want to see one. I've never seen what they're like, because I was telling her, they're just terrific. You grind your teeth, and you're foaming at the mouth, and you're thrashing. It's insane. She's like, yeah, I know I fall, I faint. No, you don't faint. You have those too, but this is different. So we got the footage. She saw the footage. I didn't show it to her for like 3 days. She's like, okay, I'm ready. She watched it, and she was like crying, pawing at the screen, like trying to help whoever this person was stumbling around in our apartment in this video, right?
It felt like a person that I'm missing a part of. I feel like this is a sliver of my self-conscious that is just not available to me. And to be able to see myself, see my body animated and moving without my consciousness in it is just horrific.
It was spooky for anybody.
It's seeing something absolutely voodoo on television.
And this
is
is where
incredible.
Where she referred to it as, she looks like a meat puppet, right?
Wow.
So that was in 2003. So we got the video, and that was intense, and
Yeah.
So fast forward to January of 2007. A friend of mine says, you should check out this thing called YouTube. I said, what's YouTube? And he's YOUTUB. He says, you go there, you just type in whatever, and they've got music videos. It's just this video page, man. Just go look at it. Just go see it. I can't even explain it. It's too awesome. So I go to YouTube. I thought, oh, this is cool. The doors, live doors. Cool. I'm looking up all this fun stuff that I want to see. She says, put in epilepsy. Bunch of kids faking seizures, bunch of stuff that says, caution, don't watch this if you have epilepsy, because there's just kind of flicker to it, Yeah. Kids faking them, people. And then there was a couple of people actually having seizures.
But it was hospital.
But it was like hospital footage.
Like hospital camera footage from
up in the
way
corner.
above.
So all you see is a person just going like this in a bed and a bunch of brainwave chart, running down the side.
Yeah.
So she said, our footage is way better than that. Mix it up, put it up. I'm like, I don't even know how to mix video. What do I do now? So they called an activist friend at the time. He brought his stuff over. We had to mix the 8mm video into digital, and it was just a big problem. Added a bunch of text to it about medical marijuana, and we put it up. Right away, the thing starts getting like 1,000 hits a
Wow.
day, right? I email it to the Ottawa ON. It wasn't like I'm talking like 10, 12 minutes later, he calls me. He's like, "Are you crazy?" There's a reporter I'd met before. He goes, "Dude, are you crazy? You putting your wife's on your wife on the internet like this? This is not."
Broke my tooth.
She even breaks a tooth video. It's intense, right?
I break a quarter off of my molar.
So he calls up Epilepsy Ontario. He's like, "What do you think of this video?" And the woman's like, "Well, I don't know. I really like the idea of that, meat puppet and all this marijuana talk. I don't really know if that's a good idea." So right away, there's controversy with this thing, right? Right out of the starting gate. And it kept getting 1,000 hits a day. And it went on and on like that for a long time. But people kept saying, the main comment we got was, "Hey, the text is going by too fast. It's kind of cluttered. I can't really see it." So right away, we put up the second one. The second one has Christine talking at the beginning, and she mentions about the rude comments. We're leaving those comments there. We let everybody put up their rude comments, their horrible comments.
Yes.
We leave it there. We leave it there for the world to see the kind of shit that epileptics have to go through.
How ignorant those people are.
Because people pile on. Some troll puts, LOL, just shoot her or whatever, and then people just pile on this troll or whatever, they report him. So I just let it all happen. We just let this all happen on the page, man.
It's educating, and it's also exposing ignorance at the same time.
Yes. So then,
totally.
we put the second one
love
up.
it.
We put the second one up like a week later, or a few days later. No text, no nothing. And then it was about 3 years, I guess, and we had 1.5 million hits on the first one, and then it got pulled for the pot references. Somebody finally complained, and we were like, "Christ, it lasted that long," And there was a nice article in the Ottawa Citizen about us. The nice picture of us there, with the monitor and her having the seizure on the monitor. So it was pretty cool.
Then it was also on TV on the States.
Then we get a call. We get a call from the doctors. Let me go back a bit. So the video's up there, and right away I'm getting requests. Right? Can we use this in the school? Can I use this to on this presentation? So I had to change the text and say, yes, you can do anything you want with this, share and enjoy. And we got emails from a doctor who ran the hospital part of a prison, and they said they wanted to use that footage to teach, so that they could distinguish real seizures from fake ones in prison, so to help save people's lives and reduce the danger. He's trying to fake a seizure and injure a guard or whatever. It goes both ways. So there was that. I've had young people, like as young as 15, saying, I'm doing a presentation in school about epilepsy, and right up into professors teaching at university level saying, can we use this footage in our class? So after I changed the text on the page, the accompanying text of the video, there's nothing on the video, but you read the text with it. It says, this permission, do what you want, download it, share it, copy it, spread it around, So it could be getting used in all kinds of places. Then we got a call, an email, and a guy says, months ago, a friend of mine, his dog had a seizure in front of me. I said, what the hell's going on? He said, dog's having a seizure, right? He's got epilepsy. So I look it up. I saw your video. And you're pretty instructive about how to take care of the seizure and everything. He says, well, the other day somebody comes into my place at work and has a seizure. Everyone else just freaks out. I don't know what to do. I might have saved the guy's life. So that happens. You get an email like that. I mean, some mornings you get up, you're so depressed and angry, and you hate and then you get an email like that.
Oh.
Wow.
And for an epileptic to have epilepsy and to be going through so many different kinds of seizures, so many levels of violence of seizures, and to be able to help educate and to be able to have such goodness and such come from something that's just absolutely horrific.
We've been told that this video has saved lives.
Wonderful.
And I mean, if they're using it in schools, I'm yet to find a piece of footage anywhere that matches it. One day somebody's going to have a camera really good and close, because everyone's got cameras now, right? I mean, everybody has cameras now. Yeah. So one day someone's going to put up a piece of footage that is going to, ours will pale by comparison.
Someday.
But I haven't seen it yet.
Not yet.
Because we get for those who haven't seen the video, we get right She's all purple. There's veins bulging out of her neck, and she breaks a tooth.
Yeah, you can see the sphincter muscles around.
You can see her eyes twitching like this.
Wow.
It's just amazing, you know.
It's probably something that would,
Very
yeah.
intense.
It's like you say, Christine. It's you're watching that experience of somebody, and you know you want to help them, and it's brought probably quite a few tears to people to watch. You go through that on the video.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left, so I want to touch on a couple things. The next thing is the two of you, as far as helping bring awareness, have worked on a children's book called Mummy's Funny Medicine. Can you tell us the story about that, what it got it started, and what's involved, its availability?
Well, in late 2002, when I started using medical marijuana, about 6 months in, we were talking to somebody on the street. I was on Bank Street. It was miserable weather. I started commiserating with another person in a wheelchair. So we got talking about, you know, why he was in the chair, why I was in the chair. And she said she was using a lot of codeine. I said, oh, well, you should try medical marijuana. She's like, oh, no, I couldn't use that. It's as bad as heroin. And it's, I mean, you're gobbling up codeine, and you're telling me pot's as bad as heroin? It's not. I mean, like, read the science. So she goes, oh, no. I said, you ever tried quitting codeine? And I saw this, you know, look on her face, and I knew, because I've kicked codeine 3 times myself. Man.
I saw this demon fly
in between us.
in between both of those two people.
It was just like, it was, you know, she knew I was to her. Like when she runs out, this codeine withdrawal is a nightmare. It's not as bad as what I've seen heroin. I mean, you don't go into convulsions and shock, but God, it's a nightmare. So as we pulled away, she's like, what would I tell my grandson? I said, tell him the truth. Tell him your purple medicine you get when you have a cold is for you, and this is Granny's medicine. I mean, it's pretty simple, duh. So she goes off in her chair, you know. So we go off, and one of us said to the other, we don't even remember which one, somebody should write a children's book. And we didn't think anything of it. So then it was Christmas Eve or a couple of days before Christmas or something. My parents were down in Florida, and we were already talking about becoming public activists and doing something with the news and talking with them about a compassion club. So I said, how are we even going to, you know, so we have a conversation on the phone with my parents. Hey, Christmas, yeah, okay, well, have a good time, talk to you, bye. And then I said, how am I even going to broach this topic that I'm using medical marijuana? They don't know. How do I even bring it up? It's like they're so stupid, I have to use a children's book or something. See Russell in his chair, see Russell feeling better. And then we looked at each other like, you know, we knew right away, oh my God, what a crazy big idea. I was, geez. So we got a piece of paper and we just started jotting this down right away. And
doodling.
And that's how we came up with the idea in like quick stages. I said we should do it from a kid's point of view. Kid looking at the parent who's sick. So in the book, Heather, the girl, is basically Christine's point of view, and Mommy is me. I'm the, you know, Mommy's carrying my sort of
Whereas
symptom.
People might have thought it was the other way around. Like, Christine was the...
Right, exactly. But so the thing is, yeah. So in the book, I'm basically Mommy. Right. We just switched it around because it was easier than Daddy's man. You know, we kicked it around. So we literally hammered the sketch, the text as it went in the book. It must have come out in about a half an hour. Because what is it? I mean, it's like 1,000 words, not even. You know, it was very quick to write it out. So we had some quick sketches, and we're like, oh, this is so great. This is so great. So we told Mike Foster. I mean, he's only a few pages in. His eyes are all wet. He's like, we got to do this book. You got to do this book.
Mike Foster is...
He is the owner of Crosstown Traffic, which is the flagship head shop in Ottawa.
Yep.
There's lots of other head shops. There's some that are physically larger, but
the original.
He was really the first one. It's just the most awesome place.
Primo quality.
And he's also been a big activist for like 25 years in Ottawa. He's not just some guy who owns a head shop. He's an activist. And like, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, I should actually have my hat off talking about it, quite frankly.
Yeah.
You know, no, seriously, he's Canadian activism royalty when it comes to marijuana.
Okay, continue the story.
So he said, you got to do this. You got to do this. So we're like, we're on it. But I mean, how do we publish this? He goes, I'll think of something. I know publishers and printers. You leave that to me. You get it done. So she starts doing drawings, right? And I'm getting every time she go, come here, look at this. What do you think? You know, she pencils something up and I'm like, oh my God. And I start crying. It looks so great. So she gave me all these line works. I scanned them all, touched them all up, get rid of all the weird little dots and whatnot. And then I colorized them all and put it all together with the text. And that took, I think it took her about a month to draw it, I think it was, and about a month to colorize it, something like that. Mm. And we managed to get it published. When we showed Mike the galleys, we had it all, just as big images. He said, okay, they've got to be set properly. But he says, I think I'm just going to put it myself. So I said, oh, wow, okay, cool. So he just talked to a printer and got got a price and everything, and he had 2,000 copies made. So we said, that's awesome. We'll do it for charity. We don't want any money for it. So, and
it's the book. The book itself, when you hold it, it's an educational medium in a very non-threatening form. Having information such as that available in that book, but in a format that is just very simple and very non-threatening. It's easy for anybody of any age to leave that on a coffee table. For example, if I was going to be getting starting using cannabis, if I was trying to approach this topic maybe with my parents, if I feel that I couldn't actually talk to them about it, I'd maybe, get a copy of this book and leave it out on the coffee table underneath Dad's Sunday newspaper.
People have told us,
this type of thing.
Older people have told us, our young adult children were totally against us using marijuana. Then they saw your book. It totally bridged the gap, and it
started to help change their minds.
Started healing. Yeah, people in their 20s are saying, my adult parents, my older parents, obviously, they couldn't cope with this. They saw the book. There's peace in the family again. They've shown it to little kids and stuff. So we've got a lot of positive feedback about the book. And there's a read-through video on YouTube where, we have some nice patent theme music in the back. Christine just reads all the text.
People can just search out Mummy's Funny Medicine on YouTube, and they'll be able to get the video of it. Right. Okay, I'm just watching my time here. There's lots of stuff that I had hoped. Oh, I'm told don't worry about it. Maybe Marina, the owner here at the cafe, she doesn't know that you and I, Russell, we have spoken for 4.5 hours before, so
we can do it.
I won't go that.
I've got time. We've got time.
I'm in Ottawa. It's not like I got anything else to do.
Yeah.
Later.
Well, later.
Another thing that you have achieved through your activism is you have become North America's 4th leading letter-to-editor writer. You want to tell us a bit about that?
Sure, yeah. Well, in 2002, I started writing some letters to the editor. Got, 1 or 2 published. It was one of those things that if I sent and didn't get published, I'd be like, all right. So I wouldn't send one for a long time. But then in around October 2003, I started getting more published. And again, this is before we knew about Facebook, and there wasn't Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. So I had a lot more time on my hands. And I just started pounding them out. Every time I would go and look on the forums, I found a letter, I find an article or somebody else's letter, I'd reply to it. Just pounding them out, right?
I had a list of websites.
I had a list of websites to go. That was my main focus. So from October of 2003 for about 8 years, I did that. And I got about an average of 100 a year.
And that 100 a year took you how many letters to write? Thousands.
Thousands. Maybe 20,000. I don't even know. See, it's funny because what happened is sometimes I see an article in the Vancouver Sun, right? And it'll be about an issue, medical marijuana, right? But that article is also going to show up in a bunch of other associated newspapers, right, in CanWest. So you got to go hunt for those. You got to find those email addresses and send it to those editors too. And then they put them on. And sometimes you only get it online. Sometimes you get it in the paper. And then other times, like for example, I wrote a letter about hemp. It was quite long too. And I sent it to pretty much, I don't know, maybe 300 or 400 newspapers in Canada. I don't even remember how many. I just sent it to every newspaper I could find in every province, even up in the Yukon and Northwest Territories and everything. And I think I got it in over a course of 3 months. It showed up in 23 or 26 different newspapers.
One letter that they...
So the one letter that I sent off to 300 or 400 different places got printed, that many times. Now the thing about a letter that big, there's a lot of times it would get into a small town newspaper.
They like to restrict the size of letters, right?
Well, sometimes they do, and sometimes they look at it and they go, let's just run this as an article, because it saves them having to put a lot of filler in, or they have to write something, right? So if they get something that's intelligent and informed and coherent, and they can just put the editor at the bottom, they don't have to be responsible for the accuracy of the content.
Yeah.
So it's verging on. So they started verging on op-eds. In fact, a couple of times I'd send out something off to the Ottawa Citizen, and there was a really nice letters editor there, and he would call me and say, "All right, look, you need to change this and that." So he would work with me to get it right for his paper. And then he had me in to have a serious photo like this taken, of me, the writer, of a letter and stuff. I have to break the law to kill myself and all this. So this kind of stuff happened. And then there was a lot of times I would write one letter and just send it to every newspaper, and it would show up in 3 or 4 places at once, over one weekend, over 1 week. I had one letter in 4 newspapers in one day. That was pretty awesome. I think it was the one about Pierre Burton.
So your advice to somebody who is writing letters is, even if your letter doesn't show up, keep pounding them out, because eventually they will get.
And the thing is, too, the editors read them, right? The editors are looking at these letters, and if they start getting more a consensus of people who are sending in a lot of intelligent, concise letters, especially if you correct them and say, well, actually, your article about this, correct them. And people are like, oh, I don't have time for that. Yeah, well, you got time to sit on the bus and play some game on your phone or whatever. You got to play a video. Take an hour to write some letters.
Exactly. You're part of the problem by sitting there and playing video games versus going out and trying to help change things.
Yeah. So there's other guys who have done a lot more.
Yeah.
Robert Sharp is. Kirk Muse is the other one, and Stan White. Those are the 3 guys ahead of me. Now Robert Sharp, he does a lot of it in the States. I hardly ever wrote to any place in the States. If I had taken the time to just write to places in the States, I could probably, my numbers would be up like this.
Yeah, they probably would, and it's quite the accomplishment just to become fourth. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's fourth in the world.
Trading basically in Canada. Yeah. In
Canada, yeah, and the thing is too, I don't know for sure, but I don't think anybody else in Canada has ever written 800 letters published in Canada. So I might just be the most published letter to the editor writer
Canadian history. And just so people know, this isn't just like this is all letters, not just cannabis letters. You're the fourth published editor writer on all subjects. Now,
I don't know about that. I don't know about that, but if you go through the history of Canada, is there anybody who's had more than 800 letters published?
Yeah, really.
In their life?
I don't know.
So letters to the editor, I don't know. So I can't really say, I'm the biggest real letter writer in Canadian history, but it's starting to look like I am.
I've been writing for years. I got maybe 20 in.
Because I know Stan White, Kirk Muse. Yeah, well, those guys are all American. Yeah. Robert Sharp, Kirk Muse, and Stan White are all American. So I think
the next thing I want to touch on, all right, is a news conference that you held. Not many people get an opportunity to hold a news conference to oppose an opposite of their prime minister of their country. So would you like to fill us in on this story and how you're able to accomplish that?
Okay, well, how we accomplished that was with the help of Tim Meehan.
Yeah.
And he knew a little bit more about getting onto getting a press conference at Parliament Hill is actually pretty easy. You call up the press gallery. There's a phone number. You can find them online. And you say, I want to hold a press conference in the Charles Lynch room. And they'll say, okay, what's that about? And what date? And when do you want to do this? And this sort of thing. So we did this kind of stuff. And we learned a lot of stuff about that, but that's another story. In this story, what happened was Stephen Harper was going to be giving a speech right over at the Chateau Laurier, which is quite literally next door. It's just over it's right next to the canal, and the canal is right there by Parliament Hill. They're right there at the Chateau Laurier at the Canadian Chief Police Association, right? All the Canadian chiefs of police are there. So he's having a big press conference. He's giving a speech at their big thing. So we said, all right, we're going to have a press conference right after whatever. He's scheduled to have his speech at a certain time. We'll have our press conference at the same time. So we show up. I was using my wheelchair at the time. Christine's there, me and Tim. I think that was about it. I don't think anybody else came with us. So maybe John Ipata was there.
I think it was
So we go there, and there's like nobody. Right? There's like almost no. I think there was one or two reporters. I don't remember, but there was hardly anybody. It was not a big press conference. So we stand up there, and Tim gives an introduction. And he's got ready, and I get up and I talk for like 11 minutes or something. She gets up and she talks for like 7 minutes, and there weren't too many questions because there's only one or two guys there, and then that was it. And we went, wow, that's a drag.
Yeah.
Oh, well. So we went home, and we found out afterwards, someone told us, oh, my God, you were on CPAC. And we said, what happened? And they said it was the craziest thing. Stephen Harper is there giving a speech live, right? They're feeding this live on CPAC. We're going to give you the tools you need, and blah, 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 this and that, and wank, wank, wank. So everyone's like, yeah, it's great, okay. And it cuts to Van Dusen in the studio. Going, okay, so that was Prime Minister Stephen Harper at the blah, 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 and this and that. And now here's some activists who disagree with their crime policy. We go live to the Charles Lynch room, and they cut to the middle of Tim's introduction. And then her and I get to talk uninterrupted for 17 minutes.
Nice.
And they didn't cut back to them. They just let us talk. They didn't okay, that's them. They're going to talk for days, so we're going to go to another thing. Yeah. Like a lot of times they do in the news, right? They just let us go. And we never saw the footage of this.
Probably.
It's probably in the archives there someplace, But when we were done, then they cut to Van Dusen. Okay, well, they gave this thing and gave a couple of highlights. He probably had the teleprompter ready for him, and then they went on to whatever else. I didn't have CPAC at the time, so I didn't know. But people called. They're like, "Oh my God, the whole thing!"
Yeah, I guess
so
you would
we were really happy about that. And then, of course, we had quotes. There were quotes by both of us. I think there were quotes by both of us in print media the next day too.
There was that as well.
There was that. Well, another time we showed up, another time we went to talk about driving, nobody came.
Yeah.
Like there was the cameraman and us. Not one reporter came, not one. And we were like, man, this is just the worst ever. But it was about driving. New driving laws they have with marijuana driving, right? And drug driving. So we thought, oh, well, the next day, it was like the bottom half of the front page of the Vancouver Sun was this article of the driving and long quotes from me and the whole press conference.
You never know. So,
it's tricky living in Ottawa. It's such a trip living in this town, man. It's so weird. It's like living in a time warp.
Yeah. Marina here, the owner, she agrees. Okay, now I want to move on to the MMPR. Everybody knows that the MMAR is changing, and we're being forced to swallow this MMPR unless some action can make some changes. Can you tell us a bit about how this program is going to affect the two of you?
We're screwed. That's all I can say. We're screwed.
Affordability,
We won't
strain
be
selection, it's all gone.
the affordability, quality, strain selection. Gone. We contacted Health Canada, right? Contacted Rona Ambrose. I got my MP to contact Rona Ambrose, right? And say, listen, we're not going to be able to afford this. What are we supposed to do? So they said, she replies, contact your health care provider, health insurance provider, right? Well, in our case, that's the province of Ontario. So I contact the province of Ontario, and they said, hey, medical marijuana is on the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. We can't even talk about it.
Until it's a DIN.
We can't, until it's a medicine with a DIN, we can't do anything about it. So it's like, you ask your dad, hey, can I do this thing? And he says, well, you better ask your mom. And you go ask your mom, well, what did your dad say?
Right. I know there was a couple of years ago when all these meetings were going on and they were meeting with people. The government told the Compassion Center operators and stuff that were involved in that it would require patients as well as the commercial distributors to lobby the insurance industry for coverage. Otherwise, we were on our own. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So we're fucked.
Whatever happened about caring about the patients instead of caring about whether a multi-million-dollar company is making $1 billion a year in profit.
Exactly. And this Ontario government is already so mired in scandal. The last thing they need is, we're going to start just, giving people people on Ontario disability and welfare, we're going to pay for their medical marijuana. Now, forget the fact that it's safer, more effective, and cheaper than many of the drugs that are already covered under the ODS.
Probably reduce healthcare costs.
Exactly. They would look at this and they'd go, wow, this is a no-brainer. But how do we tell the public this? With Tim Hudak, yap, 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 yap. With Sun News Network, yap, 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 yap. How do they get any of this across to the public, right? It's up to us. It's up to people like us to sit on the bus and talk loud. Pot cures cancer. And the government's taking away our medicine, we're going to die. So,
have a mission to every person out there who's advocating for cannabis to talk to at least one or two people daily, constantly, in order to.
Well, I mean, I usually wear a T-shirt that has something that's going to attract attention.
I do the same thing.
Usually it's my marijuana cures cancer T-shirt.
Got my
which always
time
gets
for
people
hemp
talking.
T-shirt on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think everybody should get one that says marijuana cures cancer. Now, some people wag a finger about that and they go, well, cure, you can't really say cure. But let's talk about the word cure for a minute, right? If you take a treatment for a medical condition and the medical condition goes away, then it's a cure. But if it doesn't go away, then it's a treatment that failed. Well, as a medical treatment, marijuana has cured people's cancer. In the past, doing so in the present, likely will in the future. But a good friend who we never got to meet in person, Michelle Rainey, she was taking a double dose of the stuff, cancer ate her right out, man. So it's not magic. A lot of people are getting chemo or radiation. They're like, yeah, I'm doing great. I feel great. I'm doing great. All of a sudden they get some sinus infection. Boom, the guy's dead 3 days later. Or something like that. It can be that quick with cancer. So to say, marijuana cures cancer, well, water doesn't cure thirst, but it's a conversation starter. And that's why it says marijuana cures cancer, look it up. So they're going to go look it up online, or they're going to take their phone out and start looking it up. There they go. It's better than walking around with an Ottawa Senators T-shirt on, or a Toronto Maple Leafs, or some other.
Talking about Michelle Rainey, I see you have a medicinal T-shirt on from Michelle. And as I look at the calendar, we are 5 days away from, I believe, the third anniversary of Michelle's passing. There will be the third annual Michelle Rainey Walk will be held in Toronto on the 20th, and that is looked after by Erin Butterfly, and she organizes that every year. So, yeah.
Awesome. I wish we could try and organize one in Ottawa, but honestly, we struggle just to get
Yeah.
own errands and stuff done, and
Okay.
keep our own sanity in order, you know. And this town is just,
Pitiful.
it's hard to get like even 5 people to do postering and, you know, this kind of stuff. It's different in Toronto.
Yeah.
You get the Vapor Lounge, you get all these
And,
people
and
who are
we
congregating.
run into
It's like, oh
run
yeah,
into the same
I'll do
problem
this.
here
You know.
in Peterborough, and there's a fellow by the name of Blazer Wrinkles who's working very hard. He does the Peterborough 420 and Peterborough Cannabis Day, and he's working on some other
Yeah.
secret projects right now that I can't elaborate on till another time. But if they come through to fruition, it's going to be a huge step here in this area, I'll tell you. Last
Cool.
last question,
I'm guessing.
and this got to do with legalization of marijuana.
Cool.
And the stories that we're
Yeah.
hearing in the news with Justin Trudeau and when he's talking about legalizing, and he talked about how he thought that the new MMPR program had to remove grows from people's houses. Is this a pipe dream of his? Or is this something that it could be a possibility? Because you and I, we both know we've heard this for 40 years. But does this seem a little bit different this time?
I think it's different this time because of, you know, the cancer information, internet, doctors like Sanjay Gupta, the changes in the U.S.,
Yeah.
Israel, you know, this kind of thing. I think we're off to a good start. The problems I foresee with the Liberals is that they see it as a contentious and difficult issue to get across to the public already. As you can see, it's sort of helping their popularity, but it's still kind of scrambling to get coherent, right? It's not and the thing is, I mean, people keep like, oh, Justin Trudeau saying this and Justin Trudeau saying that. It's not like he goes bursting out of the gate, well, I think this and that about marijuana. It's the press ask him a question and he politely responds in a fairly intelligent and almost fully informed way. Now, I agree with him about the MMPR. Taking away people's grows is ridiculous. It's the safest, cheapest, most effective way to get medicine to the people, for the people who want it. People like us, forget about it. The best way for us is through commercial grows, the big ones that produce and send it through provincial, you know, bodies, deliver it to our door like they do with her hormone thyroid medication that she's got to take. Right?
And the whole bit.
That's all free. That's delivered to our door. So for some people, not everybody wants to grow. Not everybody needs to be growing. I mean, some people have a dose load so big that they'd have to live in a 6-bedroom apartment to do it. You know, you cannot. Some people can get by in 3 or 4. I know a guy who got by in 1 pinner a day for his Crohn's.
I know.
Yeah. He says, man, I said, you don't use very much. He says, I roll these little thin joints. He says, I smoke a half of one a night. I don't have Crohn's. He says, if I miss that joint, boy, do I have Crohn's. It's like I got broken glass inside me. Yeah. And I shit blood. You know, but if
when
I have
people
my
talk
dinner,
about legalization, some people picture everybody growing 1,000 plants. Is this something that some people, whether you're government or recreational users or just anybody in society, should be worried about somebody growing 1,000 plants?
I don't think so. Because, you know, if let's say the law fell apart tomorrow and, you know, Peter Mansbridge and every other news, Kevin Newman and everybody like, well, that's it, man. Marijuana is legal. The law fell apart. It's like abortion. It's all up in the air. You know, we don't know what to do. And everybody starts growing. Okay, great. Everyone's going to be growing on their balconies. Everyone's going to grow it in their backyards. Everyone's going to grow. But somebody's going to grow 1,000 plants one summer. And be, oh boy. And they're going to hang it all up in their shed. And it's going to cure real nice. And they're going to trim it all. And they're going to bag it all. And they're going to, okay, great. And they're going to bring it to the market. And the market's going to say, yeah, you know, $800 a pound. What? Are you crazy? That much to grow all this.
So basically, because everybody's got 1,000 plants, nobody's got any
markets. It's called a market glut. It's a lot of work to deal with 1,000 plants, man. Especially if it's all one harvest, right? Yes. If you're growing 10 rows of 100 plants, you're going to cut them all down and hang them in one weekend. You think you're going to trim all that in one weekend? Maybe with a big machine.
And if everybody's growing 1,000 plants, where is it going to go anyways?
Exactly. Who's he going to sell it to
It's
if every
everybody's.
grandmother and every teenager's already got their 5 or 10 or 20 plants in their backyard or their shed or their basement or whatever? So some guy's going to grow 1,000 plants. He's going to try and get it to the States. What's he going to do? Put it on a truck and just drive across the border?
No, it's not.
It's not that easy. Even the bikers are going to be turning it down, and the mafia are going to be turning it down because they're like,
Yeah.
hey, we got plenty. There's a market glut. No one's buying it. And there's only so much you can push across the border before
That's right.
everybody starts to buy it. So, you know, I'm not worried about stuff like that. The thing I'm worried about with everybody free for all is much like we have the problem, much like the problems we have now, is that people are growing crap weed and they think it's great. You know, you go into any head shop that's like a grow shop place, right? And you get talking to them, and people will bring little samples, like, oh yeah, look what I grew. And the guy's like, you don't know a damn thing, man. You don't know what you're doing. Get that book, this gear, this is how to do it properly. Because people are growing all this chemical-laden, raggedy-ass weed, and they're selling it to people on the street. They're selling it to teenagers. They're selling it to old people. They're selling it to sick people.
No.
And it's not cool. You know, I just wish people would take the time to grow it clean. I don't even necessarily mean organic, but just,
Flush it out.
clean.
Get rid of the
Flush it
chemical
really
salt.
good.
Yeah.
Flush it really good, you know. Use lots of neem oil so you don't have a lot of dead in there, you know. use a lot of neem so you don't get fungus, you know. Really control your environment so you don't get mold. This kind of stuff. But no, man, just fungicide that shit. Just pesticide that shit. Just pound it. Snap, crackle, and pop, baby. You know, like it's dog shit weed.
Skunky.
It's skunky, chemical, stinking dog shit weed, and it really depresses me because it's like eating. It's just like eating, junk. It's like what McDonald's is organic beef.
McDonald's doesn't have any beef in it.
It's just exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's just a lot of chemical crap. You know?
It's just dreadful.
So this is what bothers me more about the free for all. I like the idea of, like I said, the only control I would really see is in terms of smell and in terms of sort of electrical, water, and chemical runoff. Because if every other house in the suburbs starts growing anything,
Tomatoes,
pot, food, whatever, in their basement, starts dumping this stuff down the drain, the water, there's going to be algae blooms or whatever growing in our water systems and our lakes and rivers when all the sewage, our sewage treatment plants have to deal with all this stuff. And in Ottawa, every time we get more than like 2 inches of rain, our sewage treatment plant completely overflows and raw, untreated human toilet flushings go downriver toward Laurel and Hawkesbury at all points.
Good. That's not good.
East and south.
Okay.
That's not good at all. Every time we get a heavy in Ottawa, and it's been like this for years, and I don't think they fixed it yet. We're talking 700,000 liters at a time.
And then people swim in those rivers. And people the towns suck water out of those rivers.
Down to Carry On, yeah, exactly. Carry On Beach, yeah, they're pulling water out of there for their farms or whatever. It's just
disgusting.
It's disgusting.
Okay, to wrap things up, have either one of you have a final word that you would like to say?
Get out busy. We were just talking about this with Matt Myrna on his show before you called. Have conversations on the bus. Have conversations in the supermarket. Fake a phone conversation with your cell phone. You don't have anybody to call. Walk around the supermarket, blah, blah, blah. Pot cures cancer. You should have seen this woman on TV on the internet. Her breast was rotting right off. Her breast is all fine from the cannabis oil. Amazing thing, blah, blah, blah. Get out and get active and just get into conversations with people about marijuana because the fucking media is not going to do it for us.
Get involved and speak up. Christine?
Yes. Yep. Well, I'm pretty well much on the same page with Russell. It would be wonderful to see more younger people get more active in their community as far as this goes, because just seeing young kids schlub around town wearing their pants halfway down their ass and
shoes all untied and whatnot.
Yeah, and shuffling their feet and using their little iPads and their little cell phones to check out porn sites.
Yeah.
Like, come on, get more active in your community. Yeah. Please.
I've worn myself out doing this.
Okay, well, at this moment, I'd like to say thank you to Russell and Christine for taking time to educate everyone on what's it like to live as a patient and as a cannabis advocate. I'd also like to. Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for having us.
I'd also like to
Thanks
thank
for having us.
Marina and her staff here at the Carpe Diem Cafe in Peterborough, and everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so
And
much.
everyone present today, for those on YouTube who will be participating for being people advocating cannabis education. Thank you. Thank you, Marina. Thank you, Russell and Christine. And we'll be talking with you two very soon. Okay, bye-bye.
Sounds great.
Good
Take
night.
care. Good night.